Hello and welcome, family. I'm just Dave, the informed patient, and we have another lesson for you. This is lesson number 6S. S because we're dealing with sickle cell. I'm going to sit down to get out of the way, and I'm just going to point with my stick today. We're going to talk about three types of crises, three types of sickle cell crises. We have more than that, but I'm just going to focus on three to not overload everyone's brain. The first one, we have vaso-occlusive crisis. Vaso meaning vascular, the vasculature in your arms, legs, whole body. Occlusive meaning a clot, blood clotting together. So there's a clot in this area, in the vaso area. Now, the textbook definition would be when sickle cells block flow and tissue, and the tissue becomes oxygen deprived, causing an inflammatory response. So you got a blockage. You see this a lot in children. In the hands, you get hand-foot syndrome with sickle cell. I had it really bad in my hands and my feet. My fingers would swell to where they're touching each other in here, and it's very painful. You can't bend, you can't move as a kid. Hand and foot syndrome, you get it in your toes and you walk kind of funny like this. I remember dragging IV poles around hospitals as a kid, as a toddler. But that vaso-occlusive, that clot, wherever it may be, up here somewhere, is causing an inflammatory response, the fingers to swell, because there's clots in there. It's depriving it of oxygen. Definition number 2, aplastic. An aplastic crisis is when the bone marrow stops making RBCs, or red blood cells. So when bone marrow stops making red blood cells, so you develop life-threatening anemia. Aplastic crisis. The red blood cells, something's happening, we don't know. They're being hemolytic, whatever the case may be. Not even hemolytic, but the bone marrow just stops making it. Whatever the mechanism, bone marrow is like, you're not giving me enough folate, folic acid, whatever the trigger is, bone marrow, new blood cells come from the marrow inside the bone, and that's turning off with an aplastic crisis. So there's a lot of workup you got to do to find out what's going on and how to turn it back on. Another one, this one is hard for me to say. I can't really say. I had tried earlier. Splenic sequestration. We're going to call it that, but it's a hard word to say. Splenic sequestration. I said it's close there, but that's when RBCs, when red blood cells get trapped in the spleen, causing severe anemia and a drop in hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, that was the word we talked about last week. Hemoglobin is what? The oxygen in the cells, the little blue light dots, the oxygen. Air, oxygen. So it makes your hemoglobin drop significantly. Now let's go in a little bit of depth, a little bit more depth. Sorry if I'm blocking. You got the vaso-occlusive crisis. You got the blue right here, the nice oxygenated blood, and then for some reason you go into crisis. You partied too hard the night before, whatever it may be. You did something you shouldn't have done. Sometimes you don't do anything, but the oxygenated blood, it starts to, boom, you got a clot now. Sickle cells are starting to be formed. They're clotting, and while they're clotting, things can't get through. So it's starving whatever that may be, whether it could be an organ, it could be your kidneys, it could be just your arm, leg, it could be so many things, your eye, you can go blind. And if you're starved long enough of this oxygen, that part of the body dies, and it does damage to it. Just think about it. If you hold your breath for longer than 4 minutes, you do brain damage. So same thing here, but just with blood. Yeah, the aplastic, pretty simple. the red blood cells, through whatever mechanism, are going down. The count's dropping. It's going from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 very rapidly, and you're getting anemic because of it. You're maybe getting chills, tired, weakness, all signs of anemia. Now, splenectic sequestration, don't kill me over here. Splenectic sequestration is a really bad one with sickle cell. We'll go in depth a little bit more. This is the spleen. My lame drawing of spleen. You got the spleen. First, this size. This is 1 times the size. It starts to get bigger. Second time, all these red blood cells are being pumped into it. For some reason, your spleen helps filter the blood also, just like the kidneys. It's like a pre-filter a little bit. So for some reason, your body's sending out signals and making all your red blood cells go inside your spleen and fill up and get big. I mean huge. Most of our spleens with sickle cell do not work anyway after, the toddler phase. Mine is in there. It's like literally a shriveled up prune. But this can still happen, and it'll just fill up with not sickle cells, but red blood cells. And this is dangerous because a lot of doctors don't know how to treat it. Now, if you're a medical professional, I'm going to tell you how to treat this. Most doctors are just going to overload you with blood. They're going to boom, 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 hit you with units of blood. That's not good because you have blood. Your hemoglobin's dropping, but you have blood, but it's just trapped here. You got to figure out how to make this release it. Now, what happens is a lot of times patients have been killed and died because doctors give all of these rapid, intense blood transfusions, and then what happens, this starts to calm down. Now you've got an overload of red blood cells and just a fluid overload, so many overloads. The key to splenectic sequestration is watching it closely, very closely, because that whole mechanism of transfusing too much can kill you. And what you want a transfusion, but you want a exchange transfusion. You want them to take as much of your blood as they can out, and you want them to put new donor blood in, not just donor blood on top of all of your red blood cells being held here. So you've got 3 different types of crises: vaso-occlusive crises, aplastic crises, splenic sequestration crises. You probably see most vaso-occlusive crises. That's just when we're just in pain. Like right now, my lower leg, I have pain, I have swelling. I don't know why I'm getting bone swelling, osteomyelitis. It could be the drugs. I think it's the dialysis or the drugs. Like the medicine is just it's doing this damage. Trust me, I want to get off, but it's saving my life, and I haven't figured out a full-on formula on healing myself. But give you one last shot. Again, I didn't want to make this too long. This was another sickle cell lesson from Just Dave, the informed patient. Please share my stuff. Share it, get it out there. I won't be here forever, but I want this knowledge to be here for quite a while, and I want it to go on to other warriors, to other healthcare practitioners, and things like that. Actually, healthcare practitioners. We'll go on the porch in a little bit, and we'll talk more about the healthcare field and how patients and caregivers can kind of better a facility if they choose. But be blessed. Have a great day. Ciao.